All right, all right, all right. Hope everybody's doing good. This is Lewis Shine. Hey, I'm excited to get on here to talk a little bit about defense. And I'm so excited. So I'm going to wait for a few people to hop on and then we'll kind of get this thing going. All right. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I am going through my live challenges because they've locked my orientation, so I can't turn my camera the other way. So we're gonna work this thing out. All right. So we're gonna get you guys some good information tonight. So um, we'll give it a few more minutes and then we will get this thing going. All right. Um, Defense is something that I really, really love and really, really enjoy. So had a lot of successes at it. So we're going to get you guys some good things tonight. So if you just bear with me 1 second, we're going to get it all set up and we are going to get started. All right. There we go. All right, I'll give it just another minute and then we will get into some defense. We'll get into some defense. I got my makeshift whiteboard back here. So if we got to draw anything up, we will do so. All right. Give it about another 60 seconds and then we will jump off into this. All right. All right, all right. Okay, so we are going to hop in. All right, so we're going to jump into this thing. So just a little bit about my background. I have been in coaching for some years. I've coached in college. I've coached in the pros as assistant coach, as a head coach. Back into the college realm, I've actually been a Division One associate head coach, a Division Two head coach, a Division Two assistant coach, and so a lot of what I will talk about today will come from my time as a acting head coach at the Division Two level, and we will get into that a little bit. And a lot of my successes in defense came from that time where I was coaching. So just a little background. During my time as an associate head coach, we were one of the top defensive teams in the country. We were top 5 in the nation in steals and turnovers forced. We were also one of the best teams in the country when it came to offensive rebounding. Also, we were one of the top teams in the country on 3-point field goal defense. And so we really did well at that. So I'm actually going to talk to some of those things and break it down for you guys so that you can kind of understand how to not only use these different things, but also how to implement those into your teams, into your programs. All right. So I see some other people hopping on. As you're hopping on, if you can in the chat, just let me know. Let me know where you're at. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what school you're coaching at. Let me know what school you're coaching at or where you're logging in from. We'll just give it a couple seconds and then we'll get going. Also, if you're having any trouble hearing me, just let me know. And then I will make sure that I alter things on this end. This is like my very second live, but you know, as I'm learning, I didn't want it to stop me actually, you know, talking about some of the things that I would like to talk about so I can get you guys some of the information. I know some of the schools have already started playing and things of that nature. So, you know, as I was a coach, I began to you know, watch things even as the season was going because, you know, if I was losing games or, you know, trying to alter some things defensively, what I would do is I would, you know, watch different things. When I was coaching, I would watch a lot of the champions, and just some of the things that they were doing, so that I can learn how to do things better. We have someone from Oregon. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Love it, love it. As you come in, just let me know where you guys are from, and please watch to the end because I have a special gift for everybody that is watching. I got a special gift, a free gift, for everybody that is watching. So we're gonna get into some things. So the first thing I would like to do is talk about some of the different areas defensively that I was one of the top teams in the nation in. And when I'm going to talk about these things, just note that as you are taking notes and different things of that nature, these different things I had to learn how to coach in practice. These things that I'm going to talk about and tell you guys about are game changers. And I can promise you, if you will implement these things that I'm talking about, you can take your defense for your team and your team defensively to an entirely new level. I can promise you. We were top 10 in top 5 in the nation in steals and turnovers forced. We were also one of the top teams in the nation. We were number 4 in the nation in offensive rebounding. Now I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit tonight about how offensive rebounding is a defensive stat. If you look at it as a defensive stat, it will really help you. Another thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is 3-point field goal defense. Like I hated getting beat by 3-pointers, but we were 27th in the nation out of almost 350 teams at the Division II level. We were 27th in the nation in 3-point field goal defense. So we were able to hold our teams that we played to 27.1% from the 3-point line. So that's a huge stat. So, and how I'm going to break things down to you is how you're building your defense. This is going to talk about today how you're building your defense. You have to build it correctly in order to see results. So let's talk about, so one of the first concepts that I would like to tell you guys about is you have to approach defense mentally, and how you teach your players. You have to approach it with a mindset that you're going to disrupt what the other team is doing offensively. That is your goal. One of the things that I, really realized later on in coaching is I never understood which basket belonged to me. A lot of us think that, basketball technical wise, the terms, we think that the basket that we're shooting on is the basket that is our basket, where that's not true. The basket that we're defending belongs to us. So we're defending our basket. We're defending our basket from the opponents that are trying to score on it. So that gave me a paradigm shift because it really makes sense now. It's like, wow, I thought my basket was the one I'm shooting on. So when you approach it from that foundation, then now you can, as a coach and as you teach your players, you can approach it from a personal standpoint, like this team is trying to score on our basket. And so you can take it personal. So now, and it's easy when you're playing basketball and you're defending, when you can play with a chip on your shoulder, or if it's a certain reason why now you're doing what you do, a lot of times in athletics that really helps. And so first of all, your basket is the one that you're defending in the game of basketball. So now that's the first thing. So you're looking to disrupt what the offense is doing. So knowing that that's your basket and knowing that the offense is trying to score on you, your goal defensively, the very first goal as a defender is to disrupt what they're doing offensively. Now, you can do that in a number of ways, and I'm about to go through a few of them, okay? So where does defense start? Where does it start? Defense starts after you make a basket, all right? So defense starts after you make a basket. Now, we're going to start way at the other end of the court. So after you make a basket, defense starts. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? So we're going to start with offensive rebounding, because before you make a basket, before the other team takes it out, there's actually something that you can work on and improve that will help the beginning of your defense, and that's offensive rebounding. Okay, so I was a defensive coach, and my team was a very, very, very high caliber defense team. But we were fourth in the nation in NCAA in offensive rebounds. Now, that kind of stat and being fourth in the nation does not happen on accident. It just does not. You have to, on purpose, work on offensive rebounding in order to become the fourth leading rebounding team in the nation. Okay. So now let's talk about why. So offensively, you would like to grab a lot of offensive rebounds because it gives you more opportunities to score. But when you're now looking at it defensively, it's going to give you more opportunities to, and we were a full court pressing team, so it gave my team more opportunities to set up in our full court press. So if you shoot the basketball and you miss it and they get the rebound and now they're coming down court, you can't set up a full court press. I've seen some people set up full court presses like a 3/4 off of a miss. That is possible. But normally when you're setting up a full court press, it's off of a made basket. So since we were a full court pressing team, we really worked on our offensive rebounding because that gave us more opportunities to set up the full court press. So in practice, and your practice order means a lot. Your practice order is very important because when you're practicing, the desire should be that your practices mimic the game, because if you do a whole bunch of stuff in practice and you don't do it in the game, why are you practicing it? What is practice for? So because I knew defense wins championships, and I've won a couple championships, one as a player, one as a coach, where defense was a big deal, especially when I coached. You want to make sure that if defense is your main, like that is the driver of your program, then the very first thing that you work on in practice should be a defensive drill. It shouldn't be some other drill that has nothing to do with anything. Now, sometimes before a defensive drill, I would do like a fast-paced drill just to get them engaged. So there's a drill that Gino Auriemma did, and it's actually on YouTube with championships basketball, where he did a full court two-man pass, jump stop pass, layup, rebound, outlet the ball. That was one of my favorites. And what that did, and what he talked about in that video, was that gets your team adjusted to fast-paced, up-tempo type of basketball that's going to happen in your practice. So I sometimes will start off with that. Sometimes I would start off with defense. But if I did start off with the full court press, the fast-paced layup drill, which I just talked about that Gino did, immediately after that, there will be a defensive drill. And that was on purpose because our focus was making sure that defense was a priority within our program. And because of that, my practices lined up with that. Okay. So we would start off with a defensive drill, whether it was a full court defensive slide type drill or a sprint full court closeout. You're closing out full court, 3/4, half court, and free throw line type of drill. There was different kind of defensive drills that meant a lot to us that we did. And I have a lot of those drills down below. I'll put them down below the video where you can, I have tons of defensive drills and you can watch them and use them and implement them, but it's in a playlist. I put the link right down below this video for you guys. And so I would start practice off with that. So it mimicked what I was trying to do in the game. The very next thing after a defensive drill would be a rebounding drill, because defense was the overall precedence. But what am I doing to make my defense strong? Offensive rebounding. So we would have a offensive rebounding drill. Within some of those drills were defensive rebound, but some of the drills I've done, they have been offensive rebounding drills. And of course, you can add some defensive rebounding as well. So back to offensive rebounding, okay? Why I call it a defensive stat is because for us, we were a full court pressing team. And if you play percentages in basketball, which is a game of percentages, if I can set up my full court press more times in a game, that gives us more opportunities to get steals, to get points off of turnovers. Those stats mean something. And for you as a coach, you have to make sure you're looking at the stats, the analytics, and the stats and the analytics that you would like to be great in. You have to coach those areas. So if we were looking to be one of the top teams in the nation in offensive rebounding, we had to coach offensive rebounding. We had to teach them how. We had to teach them how not to do it. We don't want it like this. We want it like this. So for us, when we sent people to the glass, we would send 4 players to the offensive glass. So if a player would shoot it, the player that shoots it, if they're like outside of the arc, they're dropping back. They're calling, I got back. Everybody else should be attacking the glass. Now, I hear some coaches say, hey, well, what if they get the rebound and beat you back? Well, I trained for those kind of things in the preseason. You have to train for those kind of things. I had the type of athletes and I recruited the type of athletes that if the defensive team got a rebound and now we're on defense, but we have 4 players crashing, then I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of them beating us back. I'm not afraid of that. So it's saying that we're reconnected now. So welcome back, everybody. We are reconnected. It said we had disconnected for a second, but what I was saying a few moments ago was don't be afraid that if you send more players to the glass. I sent 4 to the glass. I was not afraid that if we didn't get the rebound, that the offensive team would beat us back. I had the type of athletes and I trained to where if they saw that the other team got the rebound, we immediately sprint back. So I always sent 4 to the glass because a lot of times when we're on offense and we're shooting the ball, a lot of times the defensive team is not sending 4 to the glass. They might have 3, maybe 2, but most of the time when we're on offense and we shoot a ball, the defense is looking at the basket, they're spectating, they're looking around, they're watching the ball in the air. So when you send 4 to the glass and you teach them how to be aggressive at going to the glass, a lot of times you're going to get rebounds. And then that's on the offensive end, it's going to get you more opportunities to score and more opportunities on putbacks. Now you can set up your press more times. So that's why I call offensive rebounding a defensive stat. So make sure we were 4th in the nation. It really helped us. Our record, we were 23-6 that year. I am telling you like I know. If you focus on offensive rebounds, it will help you defensively, especially if you're a full court pressing team. If you're not a full court pressing team, then it's going to allow when you make buckets or get offensive rebound putback, that's an offensive rebound. To your credit, they take out the ball. A lot of teams don't take out the ball quickly. And sometimes, a lot of times, offensive rebounds, they are a momentum buster. So have you ever seen like your team gets an offensive rebound putback? Then sometimes the players are mad, the coaches are stomping, they're mad. The players are looking over at the coach because they know they're about to get reprimanded because they didn't box out. Those are the kind of things that happen. So offensive rebounds will help you defensively, okay? So I have a video on that in the defensive section down below. So make sure you click on the playlist and you can find the video that talks about offensive rebounding, all right? That's a defensive stat and how you can increase your offensive rebound. All right. So let's go to turnovers forced. And I will lump in turnovers forced with steals. Very similar, little difference. Okay. So before I go to that, though, please, if you're in here, let me know where you're from, where you're coaching at, or where you're tuning in from. And then also, if you guys have any questions as I'm talking, I'm cramming a whole lot within 1 hour, but I do have a lot of videos that talk about each of these sections which I have down below in the playlist for defense, as well as if you tune in and you stay to the end of this, I'm going to give you a copy of my free ebook called Defense Keys to Becoming a Top Defensive Team. That's my defensive ebook that I wrote almost 5 years ago. And it deals with every one of these areas that my team was one of the top teams in the country in. So these areas I coached, okay? I coached them and we were very successful in them, okay? So turnovers forced and steals, all right? So let's talk about that a little bit. So in the NCAA division, all the NCAA levels, the NCAA, they stat turnovers forced. They stat steals. And for me, I was just looking on the website one day because I started to chart what we were doing nationally, and I would show my players and hang it in the locker room so they can get an idea of where we are. But that also whet their appetite so that we can go higher and aspire for more. Okay. So when I looked at these stats, I was like, well, hey, what are turnovers forced? What are steals? I knew what steals were, but turnovers forced, like a steal can be if somebody dribbles it off their foot and you pick it up. Okay. A forced turnover is different because what you're doing defensively forced them to turn over the ball. It's a whole different level. Okay. Our team, we were fourth in the nation in turnovers forced. We averaged 25 forced turnovers a game. So we forced 25 turnovers a game. Lancaster, Cali, thanks for being in here. We got New Jersey in the house. We got Oregon in the house. Appreciate you guys hopping in and allowing me to share a little bit about what I've done and some of the success that I've had on defense. My hopes is just that you would get better in what you're doing. That's my only motive here in terms of this talk tonight, is just trying to help you guys. And I love basketball. I love talking about basketball. So the defense is my thing. So I'm just really trying to help some people. Okay. So turnovers forced. So your defense has to force turnovers. Because what happens is there's another stat called points off of turnovers. And so there were games for me that our offense was not clicking. Like we couldn't hit a bucket. Like it was just an off game. Some of you guys may know what that is, okay? And there's times where we were just off. And I was like, you know what? I have a defensive lineup that I can put in that I know they're going to start forcing turnovers and just creating havoc on defense for the offense. And so we would go to a lineup and all of a sudden we would start forcing turnovers and we would get points off of turnovers and we start scoring buckets from our defense. And so forced turnovers is your effort defensively. Turnovers forced speaks directly to your ability, your team's ability on defense to force turnovers to make the other team turn the ball over. All right, in a forceful way. Okay. And my pleasure. I love doing this, so I appreciate that. So we forced 25 turnovers a game, and a lot of it I feel like was predicated to not only because I'm going to talk a little bit about the 1-2-2 and the 3-2 because that's what we ran the most of, but I attribute it a lot to our conditioning. I was a strength and conditioning coach at the D2 level. Also, I was an exercise science major. And I played pro, I played college as well. So I was able to take a lot of that, what I learned, and put it into my program when I became the acting head coach of my Division II team. And I was able to condition the players so that we could full court press the entire game. We full court press 40 minutes. All right. And so the things that we did on defense, it wasn't an accident. To expect the team to press all game, to expect that out of your players, you have to condition them the right way. You have to put an onus on what they're eating. You have to put an onus on or make it a priority to make sure that they're hydrated. All right. You have to make sure they're getting rest. And so eating, as a coach, not only should you set an example, but you should also make sure that, excuse me, I felt a sneeze coming on, but you should also make sure that you're not only an example, but you have plans put in place for your players so that they're not just, eating any and everything, or on team meals, they're eating fried food during the season and just different things that now you're asking them to play defense a certain way, but is their body in shape to do that? Are they fueled with their food to do that? Are they hydrated enough to do that and do it at a high level? Or are you expecting them to do that, and when they don't do it, you're yelling at them? Or you're expecting them to do it, and when they don't do it, um, there's another excuse why it's not happening. Or you have to plan for these things. There's no other way. I went to a Ohio State football practice one time, and when I walked through their facility, they had hydration charts everywhere. NCAA hydration charts, like on the walls, in the stalls, by the mirrors when you come out and wash your hands. And then they had their nutrition bar. And so I talked to the team nutrition guy, and he was just explaining how important that was, that if a player came in and he wasn't hydrated, they would have urine tests. So sometimes players would get random urine tests when they would come in, and they would test that with the hydration chart. And if their urine was too dark, they couldn't practice. And if you don't practice, you don't play. No compromise. And at that level, they don't play that. It's not like, well, we're going to let you go ahead, because now if you're not hydrated and your urine is too dark where it's saying you're not hydrated, now what can happen is there can be a high opportunity for injury, torn muscles, all kinds of things, and it can be detrimental to the team's success. So if you're not, because here's the thing, one of the first things that happens when you're in high activity and your cardiovascular system is your heart's beating and you're out there moving, when fatigue sets in, one of the first things to go is your mind. So if you're looking to have players that's sharp and they're out there sharp, moving around, intact, like they're alert, they can think, they can remember the plays, they can act quickly, in post movements, and reaction time is crispy. That only happens when your body is hydrated, when you're eating well, you have rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, that happens before what they do on the court happens. And so I knew that we were trying to lock teams down defensively. So I had to make sure that a lot of those things were in place before I was asking them to play full court the entire 40 minutes with a 1-2-2 and a back to a 3-2 zone. Okay. So, but we forced a lot of turnovers. And here's the last thing I'll say on that, because I got some other things I want to go into. You can't get mad at players for going after steals. Okay. What you can do is you can teach your players how to go after steals. So I had to teach my players that when you go after a steal, if you don't get the steal, you can't just keep going and then just run into the locker room. You're out of the play now. I had to teach them how to go after steals, but stay within the play. So as soon as you feel like you missed that ball, you swiped at it, you missed it, you have to get right back into the play. And the way we manufactured our defense is we knew how to feel. So if a player was on the wing and they went to swipe at the ball and they went out of bounds, somebody else can feel for them. And when they come back to feel into the defense, they know how to get to the backside, and where the filler rotated from, they know how to get back in. All right. So forced turnovers, you have to have a certain amount of turnover attempts, like steal attempts. If a player goes in the game and they go 4 for 10, you would say, man, they shot 40%. That's pretty good. But they missed 6. But it's still good for 40. So I had to trust my players how to have steal attempts. She went after 10 steals and she got 4 of them. I can't get mad at her for going after that, because if we don't go after any, we don't get any steals. So we went after them. We had tons of deflections. We had one of our players was 15th in the nation in steals. But when you saw that player in practice and in games, that player was swiping at all kinds of balls, like balls going over their head. They were swiping high. They had active hands. Like, you have to do that on purpose. So that's forced turnovers. Turnovers forced. You have to really teach that. All right. And again, I have some videos below. I also talk about this in my ebook that I'm going to give you guys at the end of this. I go in depth with it on the mindset that I had behind it. Okay, so that's turnovers forced. Okay, so let's talk about the 1-2-2 press and the 3-2 half court zone. Okay, so I'm gonna say a few things about this because I have full videos dedicated to both of those. Okay, where I'm like drawing and I'm showing you like the movements and everything. What I liked about the 1-2-2 press and the zone press is that a lot of times, especially when you're in the high school and the collegiate levels, I like to make things simple for my players. Now, everything's not going to be simple, but I like to make things simple to where I can take the thinking away and they can really focus on their assignment. So the reason I like the 1-2-2 is because there were predicated areas, and players had assignments. And if they held true to those assignments and did what we were asking them to do, then we had great success and we forced a lot of turnovers, which was the biggest key for us in our 1-2-2. We were not running the 1-2-2 to look pretty. We were running the 1-2-2 to get steals. That was the main thing we were doing. The secondary thing that would happen if we didn't get a steal is we would speed up their offense because we were slowing them down. We would speed their offense up, but the shot clock is running. So, excuse me, we're not slowing them down. We're speeding them up, but we were slowing up their progression up the court. So they were not able to just rip and run down the court, and then they got all this time once they cross half court to get in their offense and be comfortable. We were absolutely trying to make them uncomfortable. And so the 1-2-2, I had my point person, I had my two guards, and then I had my two players back at the half court line. And what we did in the 1-2-2 is we really played our 5 against their 4, and we let their back player kind of roam back there. But we were gambling that we were going to get the steal in the back court. And so again, I talk a lot about that in the video that I left down low in that link. It's a whole video on the 1-2-2 press. It is very, very awesome. I attribute that a lot to the success that we had in being one of the top defensive teams in the nation. So please watch that. It's very, very good. And please, if you guys have any questions, please type it in the chat because I'll answer those as well as we go about. I'll try to leave like the last 10 minutes for questions. All right. So now decrease in points in the paint. Now here's one of my favorites. Okay. When you're talking about decreasing points in the paint, you have to look at on your stat card. There's two things that you may see. You'll see 3-pointers, and then you'll see points in the paint. Those are two of the things that when I go in at halftime as a coach, I'm looking for those two immediately, because if I'm looking at 3-pointers, and this looking from a defensive standpoint, I'm not even looking at offense yet. When I go in the locker room, I would get the stat card. I'm looking directly at 3-pointers and points in the paint, because that's going to tell you the tale of what your defense is doing. Okay, so I didn't like getting beat from points in the paint. That is a direct reflection of my defensive health. Okay, so points in the paint. If a team is finishing the game and they have 42 points in the paint on you, what is that saying about your defense? What is that saying about your preparation in practice to contest a team that scores most of their points in the paint? Whenever you're scouting a team, you should be asking yourself, and it should be on your scouting report to your players and your coaches, how many points in the paint does this team average that we're playing? And what are we going to do about it? And if we're not going to do nothing about it, and this other team is averaging 42 points in the paint, then they're just going to just do what they want to in the paint against you. But I couldn't deal with that. That was not going to happen to my team. So I had to come up with a strategy. And some of this strategy didn't really come to fruition until I started coaching D1 as an associate head coach. I was doing some of the things I'm about to talk about as a acting head coach at the D2 level, but it really came full circle when I came into the D1 level, because I was really able to kind of wrap my mind around the concept. So when I was younger, My dad my dad coached me, in a lot of ways. He was like my coach off the court, training, all that before I actually went to practice and played for another coach. But my dad taught me pretty much everything I know about the game. And so one of the things he would tell me is, because in my younger years, I played a big, but then as I got to my older years, I played guard. And so even in high school, I was still playing against bigs in the post, although I was a two guard or a three, sometimes ran point, but I would also on defense, because I played big and I knew how to guard bigs, I would guard like 6'6", 6'7" guys. I was only 6 feet, 6 feet, 6'1", 6 feet on a good day, And so I would guard them. And one of the things my dad told me was, don't just let a big come down the court and just walk to the block and then set up and turn around. You have to make that big fight to get down into position. Because if you don't, then what are we doing? And so I started thinking about that and my dad and what he was saying to me. So one day I was in individual work. We were in breakdown workouts. So the guards went to the other end. I coached the bigs. And so the bigs came down and we had some players coming from half court. And I started teaching our bigs how to meet the person that they're defending. So if I'm a center and it's another center coming down the court, what am I going to do in defending that center that's on offense coming down the court? So I'm not just going to sit at the block and just let them come down and turn around and get the ball. So I said, you have to go out and meet that person about 10 feet out from the basket, 10 to 15 out, make them fight. And so I just blurted out of my mouth, you got to meet and greet them. And I said, we're going to call this drill the meet and greet drill. And so from then on, all of our bigs, we made it known as this is the meet and greet drill. And in the meet and greet drill, which was about 10 to 15 feet, you could draw it 10 feet out all the way around the court, almost like inside the three-point line. It mimics the three-point line, but it's only like 10 to 15 feet out from the basket. So we would do ours at 10 feet. You could do yours at 15, maybe at the men's level, or guys, you could do 15. All right. Or you could just do 15, period. I know we were at 10 because 10 was a good ways from like the nail, 10 feet out. So our meet and greet line was between the three-point line and between the charge circle. Okay. So our players had to go and meet our players. So when our defense came down the court, our bigs, they would stand 10 feet out from the basket and wait on their defense to come. And when the defensive team came, the offensive players came down, they're going to get a bump. They're going to get resistance coming down to set up from the block. They're going to get resistance trying to get cuts or setting up in the offense. And what this does is it will cut down, and I like to say this number because this is what we experience, but it's going to cut down points in the paint 50%. It has that ability to cut the points in the paint that the other team gets on you by about 50%. Why is that? Because by the time a team comes down, and if a team is calculating their offense and they're coming down and they're entering the ball into the right side of their offense, and let's just say they have some action on the baseline, screener, screens away the other screener, the other player comes off that screen, tries to hit the block and get the ball, or they're running some kind of flex, whatever it might be. If there's any diversion in that, maybe they don't get to their spot quick enough, that guard is going to go the other direction or something else is going to happen. So we ended up playing a team in the Big South that we did this on, and there was a player in the post that averaged a lot of points in the post. And that player did not have all of those points against us when we played that player. We cut it down because when we implemented the meet and greet drill, it was right before that game. All right. So the meet and greet, I talk about that in my book, my ebook that I'm going to give you guys at the end here. So please hold on to the end of this because I got something for you guys. All right. All right. So if you're just tuning in, make sure you drop in the chat where you're from, where you're tuning in from, or the name of your school that you coach. All right. We only got a couple more that we're going to go through. All right. All right. So 1-2-2, 3-2 half court. We talked about turnovers forced, decreasing points in the paint. We talked about rebounding. this last thing I want to really touch on is how to disrupt your opponent's offense. Okay. So how to disrupt your opponent's offense? How are you going to do that? Okay. So one of the things that I like to look at when we're talking about disrupting your opponent's offense is your opponent's entry point to where they enter the ball into the offense the most. Okay. Where does the team that you're playing enter the ball into the offense the most? You have to know the answer to that question. And the answer to that question is going to come by your scout, like your preparation, like what looking at the other team, watching film. You should say, you know what, this team enters the ball into the offense on the right side or the left side, or they enter the ball into the high post the most at 75%. Whatever, you should know that, because now if you know this team favors going left to their 3 guard and they do that 50% of the time, then you can aim your defense at stopping that and being relentless at not letting that happen. So if that's what a team averages and they're used to doing that, and then you come in and disrupt that, then you're making them go and do something that they're not used to doing. So you have to answer those questions when you're doing a scout. We played a team in the Big South that over 50% of the time they had this unorthodox offense where they entered the ball into the offense through the high post. And I can remember it vividly because during scout, I ended up being, as a coach, I was that person. I was mimicking that offensive player that was getting the ball into the high post, in their offense. And we had to teach our players how to stop that, how to resist that, how to make that not happen, or divert that as best we could, because they were working a number on people. They were doing that, and that person would get it in the high post and square up and make a move and go to the basket. So you have to know what area is the people that we're playing, the team that we're playing, where are they entering the ball into the offense the most? High post, wing, are they trying to throw alley oops? Are they pushing it up to hit the corner? Like, what is their scheme? And then your defensive scheme, you have to know how to stop that. You have to work in scout during that week on what it's going to take to stop that. All right. So when you're talking disrupting their offense, you have to disrupt what they're trying to do, how they're entering the ball into the offense, if they're pushing the ball up. If they're weak against full court presses, you might have to put a full court press in that week if you don't full court press. You have to know if the point guard, you have to know in a scout who turns the ball over the most. And then you have to go at that team, that player, and make sure if they average 5 turnovers, make them get 7 when they play you. You look at other teams and figure out, how did this team make that point guard get 5 turnovers? And then you go right at it. So you have to break down the game like that. It can't, as coaches, it can't just be, we're going to run a defense and we throw our players out there, throw them to the wolves and let them figure it out. No, you have to coach every single area. You have to coach turnovers forced. You have to coach how to get steals off of skip passes. You have to coach how your point guard is going to sit lower than the level of the point guard that's handling the ball, and how they're going to get active hands without fouling. You have to coach those things. If there's a stat for it, there's a way you can coach it. Turnovers forced, you can coach that to get that better so that your numbers can be high. Turnovers forced, 3-point field goal defense, we really, really hammered that in. That's another one that I really wanted to really get into. I talk about that as well. You have to, and there's also a video in the in my defensive playlist called 3-point field goal defense. And I did not like, if I was to ever get beat by by 3-pointers. That's not allowed in the program I was in. So we really spent a lot of time on the shell drill and our players moving on the flight of the ball. You got to teach your players how to move on the flight of the ball. When the ball is a skip pass or a ball is passed around the horn, don't let your players just spectate. So if the ball's passed from the wing to the top and the players is just looking like boom and then they get down, like it's not defense, that's spectating. You should train your players how when the ball is moving, they have to move so that if they're not getting a steal or they're not getting in the passing lane, at least as the ball is caught, they're in their face ready to play defense. But if I'm just watching it, they can do a lot and we're not really playing defense and they're not getting tired and we're not resisting passes and things of that nature. You have to have your team engaged at all times. And so anytime there was passes to the 3-point line or skip passes, if we didn't get the steal, our players had to be in their faces. So there are no 3-pointers. And another part of the 3-point field goal defense is making sure that as your team is guarding the 3-point line, make sure they're standing on the 3-point line, because a lot of times you're not going to get a lot of players shooting like Steph Curry from way beyond the line, although some do. But a lot of players shoot right in front of the line. So to prevent that, have your players stand, especially your perimeter defensive players, stand on the 3-point line or above the 3-point line. That automatically pushes the defense out, the offense out, and it prevents a lot of 3-pointers just by that. All right. So that's the other thing that I wanted to mention. And so we're at about 7:47. I would like to open it up for questions, although I'll talk about some things as we're throwing some questions. But if you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned or any questions about defense that I can answer or talk about, drop those in the chat now. And I would like to take the next few moments before our 8 o'clock cutoff time to answer those questions, as well as I would like to give everyone a copy of my defense ebook. If you're still listening to this, I would like to do that. So I'm going to give you like the instructions on how to get that here before we end today. So, but I love defense. I love defense. I know I didn't write anything on the board, but if we get some questions along that area, I'll use this here to kind of illustrate anything that I need to, but I just wanted to have it just in case. And please forgive me for the beginning here, because we had what do you call it, a little mix up. It's my second time doing live, so the orientation of the video, somehow I said it, I thought I said it the right way, but it was the wrong way, and I had to fix that real quick, so it was a little jumbled, but I'm still gonna keep it up because the content or whatnot. So any questions about anything defensively? I really took it personal. I took defense personal because I know defense wins championships. It really does. I have a championship, and the championship that I did receive was the year before. As an assistant coach, we were 6th in the nation in steals. It really helped. It really helped us. And when your defense is on point, it really, really helps. I can tell you, man, we beat a lot of teams, man. We were 23-6 that year. Probably should only lost 2 games that year, but defense was a major key. Question here: what's the best way to send the driver? So I personally believe in, and just let me know if I'm answering this for you correctly. We try to send the driver out of the paint. So anytime that we have any action coming towards the basket, anybody dribble driving, anything of that nature, we're instructed. We instructed our players to divert them out of the paint. We can divert them out, but try to divert them out of the paint. So you're sending them to the wings where you have other defenders, but never were we like a wing defender kind of opening up the middle. No, the wing defender was making them. We were pointing them to the sideline, towards the sideline, to the corner. That's where we were pointing them, because, if the paint is your high percentage shots, then we're trying to make it, we're sideline all day long. We're, no middle. We play no middle because you have your high percentage in the middle. You have the highest percentage of your fouls happening in the paint. So percentage wise, you're cutting down a lot of action that can happen. You're keeping your players out of foul trouble. You're keeping your points in the paint down because those are higher percentage. You're making the team shoot higher percentage shots, lower percentage shots by keeping them out of the paint. So we're sending the driver sideline. Um, am I a fan of blitzing the ball on screens? Um, I would say it depends on, I guess, the IQ of your players. Like, if you feel like your players can do that and still maintain the steadiness of your defense, where they're not allowing splits or they're breaking down, that the hedges aren't there, um, you can blitz it. But for us on screens, we made sure we had a real strong hedge, and then we taught our players how to fight through. You have to get a hedge. The big had to pull the guard through. Another thing on the screens was we had instructions, like we knew who the 3-point shooters were. So if there's 3-point shooters, then we definitely had to go over the screen. If it was a player that shot 2 3-pointers the whole season and they're not a 3-point shooting player, then you can get pulled through the screen or go under the screen. But it's to answer your question, it's based on the IQ of your player. What players can handle what? That's how I answered. I hope I answered that for you. But as far as the technical parts of the screen, I think at any level those things have to be in place. You have to know going under or going over. You have to know hedging and pulling your guard through. You have to know switches. So, our bigs, as bigs, the bigs have to be able to get switched off on if it happens and be able to maintain, and if they're on the island. And those are the things that you handle in preseason, because you're doing agility drills and ladder drills with your bigs so they can have quick feet, so they're not just slow and they're not robots and they get just driven around on switches all day, because when that happens, the other teams are going to take advantage of you. So, and one of the things I work with a lot of teams, in the past, especially on, screening, as far as the defense. I had a team that brought me into Minnesota, flew me up. I stayed there for a few days, and I was given a couple practices, and we worked specifically on their defense the entire time. And one of the things that we worked on is defense on screens, on pick and rolls and screens. That is huge, especially if you're playing a team that plays a lot of pick and roll offense. You have to work on those things. So that's very, 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 very important. Any more questions? Let's take a few more questions. Anything defense? Like I said, down below, I have a playlist that you can click on that has a ton of defensive videos, and a lot of these things I used, and it helped us become one of the top defensive teams in the country. We were top 10 in several different defensive categories, and it was all because of a lot of the things that I have in those videos. What were your principles for closeouts? Choppy feet or no? I love choppy feet, because with choppy feet, your feet are already ready to move. So my principle was, you're closing out low, you're closing out hands high, choppy feet, because if they're moving, you're able to react either direction. Now, if we played a team and we were, conscious of some of the things that they do defensively, then if we're closing out right side of the court, we're not closing out straight. We're closing out, making them go to baseline, because we know we have help on the baseline if they're driving that direction. If we close out, letting them just go to the middle, that could count against us. So we would close choppy feet, because you're quicker to react with choppy feet because your feet are already moving. At least from my experience of being a college player and a pro, that helped me, and that helped my players. Hand high, you can go hand high here. Sometimes you can go both hands, but you can go hand high here. especially against your shooters, because his hand is up, and if they shoot it, you're already in an up motion, but you're still down low enough to where if they drive, you already have this hand kind of going with them. So that's how I taught it. You definitely have to be low because low man wins. And low man just doesn't win because it sounds nice. Low man wins because they know what to do when they're low, and they know how to move, and they know how to guide their defense so they can have an advantage, their offense, so they can have the advantage at all times with a closeout. When you close out properly, you're in control of that offensive player. All right. Hope that helped. Any other questions? Any other questions before we close out? Man, I hope this has been really good for you guys. Like, I love talking defense, and I'm working on the whole camera thing and getting better at all of this. But man, I love to talk it. I love to help as far as defense. It's such a passion of mine. As a pro player, that's how I got minutes, because I had to play defense. I had to guard the other team's starting point guard. So, that's how I ate. You know what I'm saying? And so I learned a lot just by having to get thrown out there and had to fend for myself and get my playing time by playing defense. And so I love defense. Couple things before we close out. We got about 3 minutes. If you have any more questions, please drop them. But a few things here. Number one, I do work with teams one-on-one. I go to location with teams, no matter where it is, where they're flying or driving, or whatever the case. I also work with teams virtually. So if you are a coach watching and you're looking for some one-on-one mentorship, or you're looking to bring a coach in to help you to better your defense, I would love to be that person that will come in and just help you transform your defense of your program, whether that's in person or virtually. I've worked with college teams. I worked with high school teams, both in person and virtually. There's a lot, you believe it or not, we could do, virtually on weekly calls and things of that nature that can help you better your defense, and especially in person. There's so much more I can do in person because I can be there and show things on the court, things like that. If you're interested in that, and if you're interested in having me to come in and work with your program, please, you can email me at info@lewisshine.com. My email is attached to my YouTube, or you can go to my website, which is below. I have a consulting page. You can fill out the form there, or you can click on contact and you can contact me that way. My consulting page actually has testimonial videos and some of the videos of me working with other programs, just so you can get a example of some things that I've done. You can check those out as well. Also, just for you guys being on here tonight, I would like to give you guys a free copy of my ebook. All right. I wrote an ebook about 5 years ago called Defense, Keys to Becoming a Top Defensive Team. And a lot of the principles that I talked about tonight are in that ebook, kind of broken down in word form. It gives you my background, and then it gives you just context of every defensive area that I use to become a top defensive team with my Division II team. To get that, I put the link down below where you can go on my website for my ebook. So if you click on that link, you go through the process of checking out, like you're about to buy the book. And when you're ready to check out, there'll be an area for a code. Put Better Defense, all caps, Better Defense, and you will get the book for free. 100% discount. That'll give you the book for free. Once you go through the process, it'll kick you an email with the ebook. All right. And so make sure you use the code Better Defense, all caps, Better Defense, to get the ebook at the link below. You can look at the link below, click on the ebook link, and go through the process as if you're purchasing it, and then use the code Better Defense for 100% off. That will give you the ebook. And please, if you do get this ebook tonight, make sure that you contact me and let me know what you thought about it, or some of the concepts that you got out of it, or even if there's some things that you used for your team and they worked, or whatever the case. I would love to hear from you. And so make sure that you go download it tonight. That code expires at midnight. So you have roughly If you're on the East Coast time, you got 3 hours to go download it. I will go get it now, or 4 hours if you're on Central, and then further out if you're on the West Coast, you have a little more time to go do it. But it does expire at midnight for the free book. All right. If you're watching this and you did not get it before midnight, I do have a code down below for 30% off the book. It's Dr. Defense, and I'll put it down below so that you can see it. So if you're watching this after the day that it aired, you can still get 30% off my ebook by visiting the link below and using the code Dr. Defense, which I spelled that out below as well. So, but other than that, guys, I really appreciate you guys. This has been a lot of fun. I would love to connect with you if you're looking for some one-on-one mentoring with your team on defense for this year. I would love to help you out. I would love to work with you. So until next time, guys, I hope that this has been great for you guys. Thank you guys for the questions. Thank you guys for tuning in from Oregon to Jersey, Cali. I know somebody in Ohio that was on here, Indiana rather, that was on here as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you know some other coaches that needs to watch this, please share this with them. Share this video with them. It will be posted to my page. So if you need to go back and watch it over or watch parts or whatnot to get the notes, please do. And please go down below, subscribe, okay? Because there's a lot of content already on this page. I have over 100 and it's about 120 videos already on my YouTube, all basketball, defense, all kinds of things. I have fundraising videos for coaches. There's so many different areas, but I have individual workouts, full workouts that I've done, college practices. There's a lot of different content on my page. So please, please, please check it out. And if you need a itemized list of some of the things on my page, I have an email that I can send you. So please contact me and give me your email, and I'll send you that email that has like categories of all of the videos. So that way you might say, hey, I'm looking for some defense videos, or I'm looking for some warm-up videos, or whatever the case. I have it itemized to where you can go and just click on it, and it gives you all those in that category. Or you can go to the playlists that are located right here on my YouTube. But I just wanted to make it easy for you guys, so that if you like that list, I can give it to you. You can kind of go right to it. All right. So email me if you like that list, and I can send that directly to you. But other than that, I appreciate you guys so much for hopping on. Please share this. Follow me on social media. I do put a lot of things on there as well. I'm at Lewis Shine on everything. But please let me know how this was for me. You can leave in the chat. Just let me know how you enjoyed it. If you got something out of it, please leave it in the chat as well. But until next time, we will see you on the next one. So I appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.